Wait, do we hit record?
Oh, What's up, Ann? How's it going?
What's up, Vicky?
We're
here.
The thing that's on the top of my mind right now is our trip to Sneakercon last week. Right? That's like super fresh, and something happened that we've been dying to talk about, and we haven't really unpacked with each other. So, do you wanna set the stage for what happened?
Yes. So
you know what I'm talking about.
I know very well what you're talking about, and I just want to say, as a sneaker customizer myself, who makes sneakers from scratch? And when I say from scratch, I mean I would buy an authentic Nike shoe, and I would basically remove the entire upper just to use the Nike outsole. This is called like harvesting, like that's industry lingo,
Some
right?
scary sounding stuff that we have to cover in an episode. Like, I'm looking at our episode list. Harvesting soles. That's literally a topic I want to spend 30 minutes on because I had to wrap my mind around it. So I want you to help all of us wrap our minds around it. But yes, please
I know
continue.
the first time one of my really good friends heard me say that, she was like, "Ann, that sounds so scary. It sounds like you're harvesting like organs."
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
essentially I am.
Yeah.
You know, but like in shoe component form. And so again, as a customizer in that regard, I took a personal offense to what this person said to my personal friend who is also a sneaker customizer. And you know, it's one of those things where I hate to say if like whether or not if this is like an Asian trait or Asian woman trait, because you and I are both Asian women.
Yep.
But we tend to, at least my understanding, I think you and I are very similar in the sense that I tend to hold back in the moment when something terrible is happening.
Yeah.
I have this visceral reaction to what is happening right in front of me. But I was so shocked that somebody actually said this, like so nonchalantly, that I didn't know in that moment how to respond to it. Until after the fact, I was so upset about it. So what happened was my friend, who is an amazing customizer, basically took his personal collection of shoes that he's made to Sneakercon just to network with people and like, you know, showcase his work. And
really he was just showing us because so this was the first time that I met this friend of yours, and he is an absolute just sweetheart, and I held the shoes in my hand. I was super impressed with how talented he was, and he had just opened up his collection that he brought to show us, like, and that was why it was open. It wasn't like he had a booth or he was trying to do anything else except for, you know, just share his passion with his friends. And there were these two guys that came in, right? They interrupted. They were looking at, they spotted these sneakers. These are sneakers made from scratch. And let me just say, they were made, can we disclose that they were made with?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So this particular friend of ours, he creates the most amazing sneakers with exotic skins. So like alligator, but then he does it in a way where he picks such, like, the colors were so vibrant, and the way that he puts them together almost makes like exotic, like really exciting and really, really fun and vibrant, you know? So I spotted his shoes from down the aisle as we were walking to meet him. And this is the first time I've ever met him. So he had his own shoes on. They were yellow and black Jordans, right? And the shoes that were in his bag, they're also really brightly colored. So obviously this caught people's attention. So there's this one kid, and I say this because, would you agree, he's probably in his teens?
Yeah, and then I hesitate to say like a kid because I feel like this could come from anybody, and it just so happened, and I don't want to be ageist, right? Where like, oh, this younger person said this.
Yeah.
But regardless of who said it, I was so offended by it. So what did he say?
Absolutely. So his friend was looking at it. He's like, oh, this is cool. What were the Jordans that he picked up? He was like, oh, this guy made,
I think it was like an AJ3.
Yeah, this guy made AJ3s with alligator skin.
I think it was like snake.
Yeah. Or snake
but regardless,
skin. Right,
yeah,
like
some
a reptile
skin.
Yeah, a reptile skin. And he was like, this is really cool. So the initial guy was actually fascinated by this. And then as he showed his friend, he goes, look at this. And his friend, who, let me just set the scene for you, is wearing what? Dior Jordans.
Yes.
He's got, did he have like LV shorts on or something? Well, he was,
He was
like,
hype beast.
he was the epitome of what you would imagine like a shitty little hype beast would look like.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to say.
Because we're so angry about this.
Yeah. And so he looked the same. And he looked at the shoes and he goes, those are fake. And then there was like a little bit of silence from all of us. And that's the part where I'm kind of hitting myself, that I was like, why didn't I say anything? Why did I not feel like I was in a good place to say anything? And that's what ate me up for the past however many days, like 3 to 4 days since Sneakercon.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you feel the same. And it's kind of interesting that you're saying that we are both Asian women and we both acted in the same way, where we experienced this injustice, or we witnessed it and we just stood there and froze and didn't know how to respond. And we almost just like laughed off an awkward moment. But really that was an insult, because this man is extremely talented, extremely passionate, and his work is impeccable. I picked it up with my hand, I felt it, and I'm a picky person as well. And I saw just the amount of expertise that he had when he's making these sneakers. And in my mind, I'm like, so who made your shoes that you paid how much from? Did you make that money yourself? You know, like so many things that I wanted to attack this person.
Yeah. Because they attacked my dear friends.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I've been trying to figure out why I was so angry about it. Right. And because then it got me thinking about, okay, who is my customer? Who is my friend's customer? Who is coming to us to buy these one-of-a-kind, custom-made shoes from scratch?
Mm-hmm.
And the people that I know who are coming to me and my friends who do the same things as me are people who are, they may or may not be sneakerheads, to be honest.
Yeah.
But these are people who care about something really unique.
Mm-hmm.
They care about quality and craftsmanship. They care about maybe the artists that they're working with.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, you know, just as you, Vicky, I think there are a lot of us who are shoemakers and sneaker customizers who make custom shoes from the sole up.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were to go and select an artist to make a custom shoe for me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm still going to pick the one that has a style that I gravitate towards.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, is no longer about the debate that whether or not a custom-made pair of shoes is real or fake.
Yeah.
It's about the art.
Right.
And for this person to say to my friend and comment that his shoe was fake was so offensive to me, because I'm not using a fake outsole.
Mm-hmm.
I am buying an authentic pair of Nike shoes to use as my base for my full build.
Right.
And so I think it's just the fact that like he was wearing the Dior J1s, and so like to me it's that kind of like, okay, are you making this comment because you feel like you're entitled to, because you have this supposedly really valuable pair of shoes on your feet, when essentially my friend's shoes are a lot more valuable than yours because it's a one of one.
Yeah.
Nobody else in the world has it, versus the Dior like Jordan ones. I think they made a couple thousand of them. 6,000, I think that's the exact number. So 6,000 people out there has your shoe.
Yep.
So are we looking for uniqueness, or are we just looking for like the ability to flex? Because in my mind, my friend's shoes it's such a bigger flex than your shoes.
Mm-hmm. I think it goes even beyond the outsole. I know as like sneaker makers, you guys try to retain the outsole and build on top of it, and that's like authentic. And that's something that I do want to kind of like talk to you about too, because I think about it in my head. I'm like, okay, but why do you have to keep the outsole? Is that what makes your custom more valuable, more valid in people's eyes? Just because there is one part of it that you've saved that's like, this is what makes it a Nike shoe, right? Because at the end of the day, sometimes when you swap out the outsole, I'm like, shit, that looks even better.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Sorry for swearing. Now I'm just like passionate about it. But like, I don't think it's about when he said, oh, that's fake or that's real. I don't think he was really thinking about whether something was better quality, better made, or more expensive or more valuable. He was just thinking, what is more hype to me? What gets me more clout? And getting it from Nike, getting something that's very difficult because it's released by Nike itself, to him at that moment is worth more. But he doesn't know, and he cannot appreciate, because he is ignorant about this, how much time you guys spent, the quality material that you guys go and source out, and the design process of putting together a shoe that is so unique that only one person in this world will ever have it. And nobody's going to make it the same way. And how are his shoes made? His shoes are made in a factory in bulk.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no guarantee that just because the shoe is now perceived to be worth or valued at over $10,000, that the material and the quality and all of that was worth it, right? And all that's giving it its value is probably just the brands behind it. Nike and Dior did a collab, and so automatically now it's more expensive, right? But I don't think any of that should discredit what you guys do, what your friend does. And it's so weird that we were so infuriated by what he said, even though we know deep down that doesn't really mean, it's not the be all end all. But we hear this all the time. There's always this person that comes in and just drops a comment like that. And I think we should just flip the perspective and be like, you're ignorant. I'm not going to be upset with you because you're like, I feel bad for you that you don't understand this process enough to make a smart comment about this shoe that somebody works so hard on. And you couldn't even see through whether the shoe was well made or not, well crafted or not. You just made a comment that was so superficial that shows your level of intelligence and level of thinking when that came out of your mouth. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we shouldn't be so upset with this. It's just unfortunate that kid looked like that and made that kind of comment, because it's just downright rude.
Right. No, it was so rude. And then meanwhile, you have these, like, remember we saw those two OGs, and
Yeah.
these are like, I saw these two guys that came up to my friend to check out his shoes. The same shoe that this other person claimed to be fakes to him in his eyes.
Yeah.
These two OGs were like so into it, right? And you can tell these two people, they're sneakerheads.
Yeah.
Because, and they're like old school sneakerheads.
That was my favorite
right?
part, was seeing these older people, whether it was like old women or old men, who obviously are rocking the coolest kicks there because they have experience and they know what's actually like, it wasn't just about what's trending right now. It's just like truly what is a really cool shoe, and then their perspective on it. And you're right. Those two guys came over and they're like, they appreciated it. You can tell, because they're like, they recognized the silhouette right away. They knew the history of it. And then they also saw that he put a new take to it, and they showed appreciation for that.
Right. And they're asking the right questions. Like they're asking like what material it is. They recognize it's exotic skin.
Yeah.
But like, okay, what kind of exotic skin is this? And like, how much would something like this run?
He got the quote spot on, right? He was like, oh, how much do these run for?
Mm-hmm.
And it was definitely in the thousands. We're not going to talk about price right now, but definitely in the thousands. And they were spot on about how much roughly it would cost to manufacture.
Oh, I missed that part.
Yeah.
Wait, so one of the guys actually sort of gave him a
he's
range?
like, oh, how much does this cost? Like this much? And he was like, yeah. Like your friend was like, yeah.
See, and those are the people who are the kind of customer or the demographic that we're trying to attract, right? Because granted, I take that back. I think there are some customizers who are into creating a more hype design, a more hype silhouette. I'm not knocking on that, but the stuff that I do and the stuff that my friend does is it could still be qualified as a hype design, but there's so much more to it than that.
Yeah.
And I think these two OGs totally saw that, you know, and they saw what were the added value to this particular design beyond just it being an exotic sneaker.
Yeah. And it's like they know right away that this is how much it costs for me to buy it firsthand. And then if you flip it later on, you know, the value could go up, could go down, whatever. But like it was definitely more than what the base price for a pair of Dior's was.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they appreciate that, you know, and they game recognize game.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That was like the epitome of it. It's like, my experience tells me I think this is around this price range.
Yeah.
And he accepts that, you know, and I love that about it.
Exactly. So I think the compliments from OGs like that and people who actually give you an insightful conversation, that should be valued at more. That's much bigger of a compliment that they said that. And then this little douchebag here who made that comment, his should be valued less because I don't really care what he says at the end of the day. Right? We're just it's so funny. Have you spoke to your friend afterwards about that?
I have not.
Okay.
And it's one of those things where, okay, am I more offended than my friend?
Yeah.
Right?
We're just like upset. We're like, let's make a whole podcast episode talking about this because we're so upset by what went down. And it's like, it didn't even happen directly to us. It happened to our friend.
Right. And but then my friend, like, we do the same thing. And so, you know, it's just a matter of time when somebody might say that to me. How am I going to prepare to, like, you know, kind of, I guess, respond back?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think it's really interesting. It's like a lot of times, and this is like kind of age old, whether you customizing a pair of shoes adds value to it or actually makes it less valuable, right? And I feel like there are sometimes, let's just put this out there though. I think not all customizers are made equal. There are definitely customizers who are more skilled than others, who have more experience than others, or just have a really unique style compared to other people. So in terms of pricing and value, that can definitely change. But like, do you think that by changing something on the silhouette that it's going to be worth more?
I think it depends on the person. And again, I think the nature of what we do is so subjective in so many ways. To me, being able to provide a service to a client where we can make something for you that's just for you and nobody else can have it, that alone is so valuable to me. And whether or not, you know, it's a departure from the original shoe or, you know, kind of where we're taking inspiration from, like, for example, like AJ1 is customized a lot in the industry. Whether or not it's a departure, I personally have had more positive experience in terms of like social media of people commenting on traditional sneaker silhouettes that I've changed up than sticking with just doing, you know, a traditional silhouette.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think, you know, earlier you were just saying that, yes, like not all customizers are created equal. And that's the way it should be, because that just means there is a customizer for every kind of customer out there. You know, I might not be the customer for you, but if you're looking for somebody who does something else different, like I would point you in that direction because that's not my expertise.
Right.
And I charge a lot more if you want me to do this, you know?
Exactly.
And so I think it's great that there's like kind of a wide variety of customizers doing different things because you'll always be able to find somebody for you.
Yeah. And I think with customization, we haven't gotten to the point where people can differentiate, or the public, I should say, has really accepted the fact that there are shoes that are made, there are designs that are worth more and maybe considered even pieces of art versus just I'm paying somebody to just add something to it, right? Because when I started with customization, I remember it would be a client talking to me and saying like, oh, I want this, this, and this on it. And right at the beginning, I remember, okay, I just follow the instructions. I follow the prompt that I'm given, and that's exactly what I put on the shoe. I don't think about whether, you know, different colors go together, different characters should be beside each other. I kind of just blindly went with, okay, this is what you want, this is what I'll put on it. But then there are other types of customizations where it's like, I have to spend weeks researching. I have to work on different color palettes. I have to test things out, do mock-ups. And I think for you, the process can be even more intense than that and take even longer. And that is what people, I don't think in general, can differentiate when they look at a pair of customs, unless you're trained. You know, if you've looked at it for a long time, you're in the industry, you're very much in the thick of it, then you will start to realize like, oh, that must have taken forever. Whereas just from, you know, the untrained eye, it's not immediately obvious whether something takes a long time to make versus something that's just slapped on, right? So for example, the other day, when your client came in, we were talking about this shoe where she had it was her friend's dog that was like customized, and it was painted on a pair of shoes. And she showed us, she's like, yeah, it's like, it's not very good. And both of us looked at it, and I was like, well, immediately those two dogs are stenciled, right? And it's just two very basic things that are put on a shoe. I know how to price that. Then there are more complex shoes that I look at from other artists. I'm like, oh, that must have taken so long. And I know that they didn't charge full price for that, right? So there's that. And I think that part of our mission for this podcast and when we have conversations is also to help, I guess, share how long the process actually takes for the both of us, and almost speak for customizers too when it comes to the amount of effort and the amount of time that we actually go in to planning these shoes. And it's not just about throwing different leathers on a sneaker and then calling it a day, you know? And there's so much more expertise that goes behind that. And the reason why you should and can be charging a lot more is because of the skills that you also bring with it, right? You are very, very much trained compared to other people who are not trained. And when you look at the sneakers, there's also like people who have very uneven stitching, or the way that they do things, like, no, it's not the cleanest execution, right? And that's going to vary as well in terms of price. But I think this person that we were really upset with, he just took a look at it, didn't assess anything else, and made a judgment.
Split second. Oh,
yeah.
Burns me.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
oh my God. But yeah, I think that's something. And I wanted to do this. I don't know if this is the right time. And of course we can edit this out if it's not. But I do have some fakes that I kind of want to just put into your hand, and I want to get your first impression of. Can we do that?
Yeah, show it to me.
Okay. 1 second.
And so what I wanted to ask you earlier, Vicky, is I wonder if something like this has ever happened to you, like in your industry, right? So I feel like maybe us as customizers who use authentic Nike outsoles have probably experienced this question more than you guys who are just painting on a finished branded shoe. Have you sort of come across this similar, I guess, incident?
That shoes are fake?
Yeah.
Or if we've
or
like
people made that comment.
if we've painted on it, then it almost like ruins the shoe and it's no longer as valuable. Yeah, I think so. And I think if there are people that appreciate customs when they're painted on, they're like, oh, that's a really sick idea. And then there are people who are like, oh, but it's like, you just painted that on. Nike didn't make that. There are definitely people that I've seen that have said that to me. And I'm just like, okay, well, I mean, this is all I do. So you can have your own opinion and I'll keep doing my thing, because obviously you don't understand, and you don't understand the value of what we do. And you can't appreciate the art that's going on it, you know?
I think that's interesting because I feel like, again, to your point earlier, you were saying, how upset should we be by the comment that this person made because he just doesn't know any better? And I feel like for me, on more than one occasion, I have publicly said this to my people on social media, where us as customizers, it's our job as customizers to educate people
Yeah.
consistently, almost like it's like to a point of like the record is broken and shattered to pieces.
Yeah. It's like powdered,
You
milled to a fine powder.
cannot, right,
Yeah.
break it any more
Mhm.
than it actually is. So people can understand the amount of effort that goes into creating a custom pair of shoes. Because until they know, they don't know.
Yeah. And I think all of this also ties into pricing as well. A lot of artists will, I would say majority of artists will undercharge. There are some that are opportunists that will be like, oh, I can make a quick buck, so I'm going to do a very simple design and then I'm going to charge what it's worth, or try to milk it and make the most of it. But a lot of times people who actually put a lot of effort and passion into what they do, they don't actually time themselves for exactly how long things take. So the perception is a pair of customs should be compared to how much it would cost to just get a base shoe from Nike. So they're comparing your work that's completely different, that's made from scratch, to what the cost of a Nike would be, even the premium ones. And they look at it and they're like, well, I'd rather buy Nike. I'd rather buy directly from Nike. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Is because they're like, well, both of them are shoes. They're both, kind of created equally. And most people will recognize this silhouette, so I'm going to go for that one instead. And this also goes back to Sneakercon, which is when we walked in, we were so underwhelmed by Sneakercon, and this was both of our first times, and we kind of knew what we were going into, but to actually see it, it made us bored, because every single stall, every single booth or table were selling the same things. Right? So same Travis Scotts you'd see there, same Jordans, same everything, and it was just sizes, like Yeezys were there, right? So it would just be different sizes, and it was more of a reselling show than just an overall sneaker show. Do you know what I mean? So there weren't that many customizers there. There weren't even fascinating silhouettes. I remember you telling me like, oh, they should, like, I would expect at least one booth to be like not just going after the hype and the money, but to have really unique styles that you could choose from, so that you would actually pull out your wallet and maybe consider buying something, right? And that's, I think, what the whole sneaker world trend is trending towards, and that's kind of unfortunate. And with customizers, like, oh, we went in with a completely different lens. Anne was doing her little Asian squat every now and then, taking pictures of people's shoes and what was actually on their feet that were interesting. A lot of them were girls, right? You had yeah. And you were like, oh, I really like that. I really like that style on them. That's more interesting than what's being sold on the tables.
Yeah, and I think, Vicky, like, here's me say this all the time. I am not a sneakerhead. I will never claim to be one in the past or present or the future.
Me neither. I'm even worse. I don't own that many pairs of shoes.
Right, and then I'm okay with that, right? And so I think it's unfair for us to say, like, our perspective and the way that we're seeing Sneakercon, our lens are so different from somebody who is actually a sneakerhead. And me having never been to this event before, I asked my friend previously, who's a big sneakerhead, what's it like? Like, what should I expect? And he basically said, yeah, people go there to, trade, sell, sneakers. And you can sometimes find like really interesting, unique shoes that you may not have seen for a while, but it's been sitting in somebody's collection for a while, and now they're ready to let it go.
Yeah.
And so I sort of went in with that expectation. And when I got there, it was almost like immediately I saw what I saw, and this is what I saw, right? And I was like, this can't be it.
Mm-hmm.
That was the comment I made to myself. I was like, this can't be it. Because if Sneakercon is a place that exemplifies sneaker culture,
Yeah.
then in my opinion, sneaker culture is dead.
Oh.
In that context, I know it sounds super
Yeah.
serious, right? And then
Yeah.
this is me again. I'm claiming that I am not a sneakerhead, and I like there
Right.
might be people who are listening to this. They're like,
Mhm.
"Ann, you have no idea what you're talking about,"
Yeah.
and I accept that.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just my personal observation, and I think just like what Vicky was saying, it's like if sneaker culture is equivalent to every booth selling the same shoe that people won on the sneakers app,
Mm-hmm.
then sneaker culture is dead.
Right. And I almost want to say if that is a snapshot into a sneakerhead's collection. So if I were to go into somebody's house and this person was a sneakerhead and they were like, "So show me what you got." And I'm so excited to see everything. And if they just open their closet where it's like nicely displayed and they have every single pair of shoes that you could possibly think of, but then it looks the same as every other collector's, then I feel like that's a lot less exciting than if it was like, okay, but look at this. This nobody has, but I have it. And like that would be my prized possession. And that would be what I want to show off. As opposed to like something that everybody has, but you have it to feel like you belong or to feel like you are part of the hype.
Right.
And I think that's pointless, but very bold of you to make that claim that sneaker culture may be dead. We might get canceled so hard after this. Like, what are these girls
that's
talking
what
about?
I said. Like, if that's what sneaker culture is, then sneaker culture is dead in my eyes.
Yeah.
You know?
But I almost agree with you. I think that would be super boring, and I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Right. And then
Yeah.
so I'm like, I rather buy these custom exotic sneakers from my friend than buying a pair of shoes that somebody got on the sneakers app for triple the price.
Mm-hmm. And can I just put it out there that customs are expensive. Custom anything is expensive. Get a custom suit, get a customized, car, whatever it is. That or a custom build stereo system. You already know from the word custom added in front of it, it is going to be expensive. It is a luxury and not a necessity. And not a lot of people have that kind of money to spend on it.
I would argue that customs are not expensive, right? Because I feel like expensive, the word expensive is almost like a little bit ill-used in this case, because a custom, like you get what you pay for sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so it might be quote unquote expensive to the general public, but to my clientele, it's very reasonable.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. It's like,
so who are you catering to in the end? Who might actually think that's expensive? Because people who think it's expensive probably shouldn't be buying it to begin with.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, and so you get what you pay for, and like if you want better quality stereo, if you want a nicer car,
Yeah.
you're going to be spending more money, regardless of the price tag.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of my argument. But anyways,
Expensive is not the word, but like,
Yeah.
let's talk about the opposite spectrum, which is, so I acquired these on AliExpress, and it piqued my interest because this ad came up, and I was like, Jordans for, actually, I'm going to let you guess the price of these, but I'm going to put these in your hand, and you're just going to, of course, this is like our podcast, so you're going to have to be very descriptive about what you're seeing and what you're feeling. So these are Jordans. So put these here. You take a look at them. So these are obvious fakes that we have. And, they were extremely cheap. I was just super curious. I was like, what does it mean to buy a fake shoe? What does that look like? And of course, there are different levels of fakes, right? We know there are fakes that are practically the same as the real stuff, maybe made from the same factory. And then there are some that are just total knockoffs, and they're made with cheap material, cheap manufacturing, zero QC, all of that stuff. So your thoughts?
So I'm looking at a pair of AJ1. It's a woman's pair of shoes. And my initial impression of these is that they're not bad. They're not bad.
Okay.
In terms of like proportion of all the pattern pieces. The outsole is not bad, but because I handle a lot of AJ1s, the back of the outsole seems to come up a little bit more than usual. And the sidewall stitch is kind of inconsistent. The tongue feels a little stiff. However, though, the way that it's finished, so it has this like binding around the perimeter of the tongue. So this is not done very often in traditional AJ1. So this is actually a better finishing quality
than the actual AJ ones.
Yep.
Okay.
And in terms of just like, the QC aspect of it, I don't see any cement that's visible to me, which are actually very common in a lot of the authentic sneakers that we get from Nike these days.
Mm-hmm.
I do see a little bit of heat erased pen mark that wasn't taken away.
Yep.
But honestly, like, it's not bad. Like, this fake is not bad. It's not a bad fake. The wing seems a little small around the top of the wings, close to the eyelet. Also, these lace eyelets, like these holes, are pretty big.
Yeah,
like
just
it's
punched
not
in.
that refined.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're not bad. They're not bad.
Yeah,
they're not bad.
I think for me, when I picked it up, it's a lot lighter. Like the outsole, I think, is a lot lighter than like an actual one. It almost feels like it's made from like a crappier material, and the mold has like a lot of, like, you see it won't be perfect. There's a lot of stuff sticking out of it. And of course, I think that this goes to show that whatever comes out of Nike as an authentic product is not always the best, which almost justifies why, if you really want a superior product, that you could go to a customizer that you trust, somebody who's able to rebuild the shoes with better quality leathers, better make, and the amount of time and effort that they go into perfecting it. Whereas these people are like factory workers, that aren't paying attention to these things. They're doing this in bulk. They're just like glue, stick, and there's a lot of stuff that's not perfected in something like this.
Yeah, and then I've also seen a lot of authentic Nikes that looks really fake because of just the quality.
Right. Yeah. And like the stitching is completely off. It's kind of like going beyond the leather panel and onto the other.
Are you talking about the fake ones right now?
Yeah, these are the fake ones.
But but honestly, I've seen these unauthentic ones too. So it's like, so I'm saying these aren't bad.
Right. Okay.
These aren't
so
bad
these
at all.
aren't bad. What about these ones? So I've also got, I guess these are Air Force One mids.
God, these are terrible. Okay, so I have a pair of Air Force One mids. These are fakes. Vicky you got them from AliExpress, yeah? First of all, like, they did not even try on the outsole. So the outsole doesn't even look like Air Force One outsole. And then the proportion is wonky.
Oh,
and
God.
as we all know, Air Force One mids has this kind of like a faux strap thing that you cannot remove. And oh God, this entire thing is just terrible. Like, the material is crappy. It's really awful PU.
Yeah.
And
it looks like paper. When I pulled it out of the bag, it was all scrunched up. So the two of them were like packed together, squished into this tiny package. And then I pulled it out and I was like, is that cardboard? That doesn't even look anything like proper. It doesn't even look like a good PU,
So the so the material itself has some wrinkles in it, and the vamp pattern and the toe cap pattern is completely off. And the eye stay is super wonky. Let's not even talk about the stitches. The mesh inside the collar, terrible. It's like sheeny. And on the tongue tag, it says Nike Air Max, not even Nike Air Force One. So this is what I'm saying. Like, if that guy had the audacity to call my friend's shoes fake,
and compare them to this
clearly
level.
they have never seen a fake before.
Yeah.
Okay? Because this is
And this
a
is why
true
we're insulted.
fake.
Yeah.
Yes, so insulted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to compare the amount of hard work that went into creating that pair and crafting it, and saying that it is like this is the biggest insult to a customizer and to people who just can generally appreciate good work. You know, this is what a fake is. And I mean, there are, of course, different levels of fakes, and this isn't even the best one. So both of these, in terms of price range, were about, I think the Air Force One mids were $30, and then the Jordans were about $35, closer to like almost $40.
Yeah, I wouldn't even pay $35 for this Air Force One mid. It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. I mean, you can go to the outlets and get like Air Force Ones for like $69.
Yeah.
That are real.
Right. Which is why I was like, so who's actually buying these shoes? I mean, I'm probably part of the problem because now I purchased it, but I also got all my money back because I was like, this is trash. You just sent me trash. I'm not going to pay for it.
But then you have to see it to believe it. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, okay, what do fakes look like?
Yeah.
It looks like this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, who is wearing these? Like, Nike's producing so many millions of pairs of shoes and they're selling them, but then also these, like, maybe just don't bother with these and buy regular shoes without the brand. Just make it a little bit better, save on all these molds to make the air completely wrong and misspaced, and you know, like, don't even bother with this. What are these stars that are on the outsole? Like, what the heck?
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's totally awful.
It's not good.
Yeah.
So the moral of our podcast episode today is fakes. I guess what would be a good way to sum this up, Vicky?
Customs are not fakes.
Yes.
Like our
Essentially.
literal thing, our little post-it note for today's topic is literally customs, or actually that might be another one, but customs don't equal fakes. And just because something is custom or we've added something to it, a lot of times we can be adding value or creating something that's more long lasting in your case and better made versus what Nike has already done and what fakes, the actual fakes that exist, look like.
Yep. 100%.
And just be smart with your money. Almost. If you wipe away all of this, whatever is considered hype or clout, and just think about what you want to get out of your shoes. Do you just want the approval of people around you who are buying exactly the same things? Do you want to be a sheep in a herd, or do you want to be a herder? Do you want to, be proud of your collection and know the true value of why you're purchasing something, or do you just want to follow trends, right? At the end of the day. And then you can decide. And we're not saying it has to be customs. It totally can be anything else. But like, just think about your appreciation of the silhouette and the style, the design of the shoes before you just buy it and then insult and, dismiss everything else that could be more spectacular, more unique, and just one of a kind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%. That's all the time that we have for today. Such a good topic. I love this one. I feel like I can go on and on.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for your perspective, Vicky.
So much. And I feel like we needed to get this off our chest.
Oh my
So
goodness.
This is great. Thank you for listening to us rant. And of course, the next time we hear something like this, I'm determined to just think of something smart on the spot and just say it.
We need to be prepared.
Yeah. Now we are, though. So whoever it is that's going to
Yes.
come up to us and tell our friends that their customs are fake, you're going to get it next time.
Oh,
But-
do not piss her off.
Yeah. Oh my God.
All
Okay.
right.
All right. Thank you
Thanks,
so
you
much.
guys.
See you
Appreciate
guys next
you.
time.
Bye.
Bye.